Hi everybody, welcome to the Lord of the Reads. So, today's video is going to be a look at all the series that I am in the middle of. So, as many of you probably know, I read primarily lots of YA fantasy, and with YA fantasy comes lots of series. So many series. So I thought it would be fun to take a look at all the series that I'm currently in the middle of. This will only be series that have books published that I have not finished. So there are some series that I'm in the middle of, but the next books have just not been published yet, and that's why I'm not reading them. Those will not be included on this list. This is just the complete series, or series that still have published books that I have not read. I have 15 series to talk about, which is quite a few. It's not as many as, I would like to be in the middle of, because I love reading series. So, if I could read more, if I could be in the middle of more, I would. But I'm enjoying most of these, so we can go ahead and take a look at what kind of series I'm in the middle of. The first series that I am currently reading is The Rise of the Empress. I believe it's not quite a trilogy. There are 2 main books, and then I think a short novella, or a prequel book. So, there are 3 books in total. I've read the first book, however, it's been a while. So, before I continue the series, I'm probably going to have to read through the first one again. Or at least look up some, summaries of it, so that I can get the gist of it before I move on. But from the first book, it is so good so far. The series follows a girl, and she believes that she has some kind of great destiny. She lives, I don't remember exactly what country it is. I think it's just a fantasy country, but it's set in Asia somewhere. But she believes that she needs to go to the capital city, and she believes that she is destined to become Empress. So that comes with quite a bit of political things going on, with her having to infiltrate the palace. And since this is a fantasy, of course, there's magic. The magic is not the most huge part, but from where the first book left off, I think that will be introduced more throughout the second book. I think we didn't get a whole lot of answers as to how the magic works and stuff like that. So I think that'll be touched on more in the second book, and I'm very excited to get to that. That is definitely a high priority. Just have to read through the first book so that I can continue, but definitely one that I am very excited to get to. The next series that I'm in the middle of is the Last Hours trilogy. So this is Cassandra Clare's latest trilogy. The second book is out, however, I have not read it. And the reason for that is because I started with the last series first. So, in the Shadowhunter world where this trilogy is set, there are 4 series, I think. And I'm in the middle of the first one still, because I started from the beginning. So I wanted to wait to continue this last series until I had started over and read the first series and all of the other ones. So after reading the first book in the Last Hours trilogy, I decided to go back and start from the beginning. So that's why I'm still in the middle of this. This trilogy follows a girl named Cordelia, and she's just moved to London, I believe. But in the Shadowhunter world, there are demons and angels, and the angels created the Shadowhunters to keep the demons away from the mundane people, the regular people that can't see the demons or any of the magical creatures, because there are also fairies and warlocks and vampires and werewolves. So it's a very fun book. I really enjoyed the first one, but the only reason I haven't continued is because I'm wanting to start from the beginning. The next series that I'm in the middle of is the first Cassandra Clare series. Specifically, I'm on the 4th book, which is City of Fallen Angels. So this series has all those same things, the angels and the demons, shadow hunters, all that. But in this book we follow a girl, and she grew up a mundane and then starts to see shadow hunters, and she doesn't know who they are. And she finds out that she might be one of them, and she has to work her way through, like, learning about all these magical things, even though she doesn't know and nobody else knows why she's seeing these things. So, it's definitely very fun. I've really enjoyed this series so far. I'm very intrigued to see how this one goes, because it started off as a trilogy, and then she added 3 more books, and I think the trilogy wrapped up really nicely, so I have no idea where the next 3 books in this series are going. So this one's on this month's TBR, so I'm hoping to get to this one soon so I can learn how the series is going to continue. So this one's definitely a high priority, and one that I am very currently reading, hopefully going to be able to get to soon. The next series that I'm in the middle of is The Giver Quartet by Lois Lowry. So this is a very hard series to talk about without spoiling, just because all the books are related, but they're not really related. So you have The Giver, Gathering Blue, Messenger, and Sun, and they're all, like, you could say that they were companion novels set after one another, but it's so hard to see how they're directly connected. I'll tell you what the first book is about, but I can't tell you what the other ones are about, otherwise it could be spoiler. It's really hard to talk about the series. So the first book follows a boy named Jonas, and he lives in a community. And in this community, there is no such thing as color, and nobody can hold their memories. All the memories are given to someone called the receiver, and they receive all the memories and keep them so that the people living in the community don't have to deal with the pain of past memories. So it's definitely a dystopian, and it's very, like, psychological, because it's a very interesting look at a world where everything is controlled, like, very minute and small things are controlled by, like, a board or, like, a government system. So it's definitely a very thought-provoking and interesting book, and it's interesting because the first book starts off being very, like, technological, and as it goes on, it starts getting more and more primitive until you get to the last book, which I'm currently in the middle of the last book, and it's extremely confusing. It's split up into, like, 3 parts, but each one is, like, written in different styles, and, like, the setting is different, and it's just confusing. But it is a good series. It's kind of confusing, it's thought-provoking, it's kind of ambiguous, so it's a wild ride. But I would recommend it because it's a very, very good book. Definitely one that will make you think, and that you will not be able to forget for a very long time. The next series I'm in the middle of is The Lunar Chronicles by Marissa Meyer. So, I've read the 4 main books in the series, and I've read the novella from the villain's perspective. The only thing that I have not read is Stars Above, which is, I believe, like, short stories. Yeah, just, like, secrets and stuff from the world and short stories. So, very excited to get to this, because I've loved the Lunar Chronicles. It was, like, the first book to introduce me to YA specifically, so definitely a very, very enjoyable series. So the first book, Cinder, follows a girl named Cinder, and she's a cyborg, and she's a mechanic, and she lives in New Beijing, because we're set in a post-apocalyptic version of our world. So everything had to be rebuilt, and she lives in New Beijing, and she meets the prince, and she gets wrapped up in this whole political plot, and there are people that live on Luna, because the Earth colonized the moon, and those people have the magical ability to, like, mess with humans' bioelectricity, so they can put thoughts into their heads and control their actions. So with that, the politics are going to be really something. It's just a wild ride, the magic and the intrigue and all the different characters, because this is multi-POV, and each book follows the primary perspective of a different character. So they are retellings. Cinder is a retelling of Cinderella, Scarlet is a retelling of Little Red Riding Hood, Cress is a retelling of Rapunzel, Winter is a retelling of Snow White, and then Ferris, the novella from the villain's perspective, is a kind of retelling of the Evil Queen story. And then this is just like a short story collection from the world that's supposed to like give you glimpses into things that happened in the books that you didn't actually get to see, I believe is what it is. So I'm so excited for this. This will be the last book in the series, and I'm kind of sad to be done with it because I've really enjoyed the series, and I wish we could get more with the characters, because the characters are by far the best part. Like, such interesting and well thought out characters. So this is one that I'm going to be sad to finish, but I'm excited at the same time to get this like more look into the world and the secrets that we didn't get to see throughout the full series. The next series I'm in the middle of is the Ascendance series. I was about to say Ascendance trilogy because it was originally a trilogy, and then she added more books. So yes, Ascendance series by Jennifer A. Nielsen. So this is a very fun series, like very plot driven and so interesting. So in the first book, we follow a boy named Sage, and he gets picked out of his orphanage by a man who's been taking boys around his age from all kinds of orphanages across the country. And his goal is to train one of these boys to pretend to be the long-lost prince of the country. So he's going to rule, like, as a puppeteer, and rule through them. And there are so many plot twists, and like the next books veer so far away from the plot of the first books that's not the plot of the overall series, just the first book, because of the one thing that happens at the end of the first book it blew my mind, and it changes everything that happens throughout the rest of the series. So it's definitely a very, very enjoyable book. There are like battles and certain wars that go on, and like the politics and everything. It's very interesting, and it's definitely a very fun fantasy that I would recommend because it's just a lot of fun. The next book I'm in the middle of is The Diviners by Liba Bray. So this is... I have not finished the first book. So I checked the first book out from the library about a year ago, and I took it back because it was due, and just have not gotten it back out, and just been reading other things. But I'm so excited, and I really want to get back to it soon. So this is set in the 1920s, and it's like a horror ghost story. So you follow this group of people in the 1920s, and during a party, they mess with a Ouija board and they summon a spirit. And like that historical fiction 1920s ghost story, I've heard that it's super atmospheric and that the characters are amazing. I really enjoyed what I read so far. Mostly the writing, because I didn't get very far into it, maybe like 40 pages. So I really enjoyed the writing, and from what I saw of the characters, they were very well thought out and well written. So I don't have a lot to say about this one, because I haven't actually read any of the books to completion. But I am in the middle of the series, and I'm very excited to get back to it, and hope that I can do that soon. The next series I'm in the middle of is the Graceling Realms series. So I'm in the middle of Fire. The series is by Tristan Strong. But I'm in the middle of this one. It's on this month's TBR. I've started it. I'm like 48 pages in. And I've had extremely bad luck with the series so far. It's just the first book. It was a 2-star. I've ranted about it in multiple videos. I really did not enjoy it, but I've heard that the series picks up so far. So I picked up this one. I'm not enjoying this one so far either, but I am only 48 pages in, so there hasn't really been a plot going on so far. It's really slow, which is one of my main critiques from the first book. So, I'm not sure about this one. We'll see. I do plan on finishing this book and hopefully finishing the series. But we'll see. The first book follows a girl named Katsa, and she lives in a world where there are 7 kingdoms ruled by 7 kings, and people can be born in this world with graces, which means that they just have a special skill. And Katsa has the grace of killing, and that means that the king of the country that she lives in, the kingdom that she lives in, the king, which is her uncle, has her be the person that goes and upholds the law because she's a major threat to people who don't. So, this book is a companion novel, and then the third book is a direct continuation of the first book. So this one follows different characters. I'm not really caring about these characters so far. They're just not interesting to me. So, we'll see what I end up thinking about this one. So far, I'm not really enjoying it, but when I continue it, I'll see, and that will be in my August wrap-up, and we'll get to hear my full thoughts about what I thought. The next series I'm in the middle of is Under the Green Hill by Laura L. Sullivan. This first book was a bit of a disappointment. Didn't really enjoy it too much. So it follows 4 children, and they go and live with their great aunt and uncle in the English countryside because where they live in America, a disease is sweeping the country, and they go to live with their great aunt and uncle because hopefully they can stay safe from it there. And they go on a 7th summer, and every 7th summer, the 2 fairy courts wage war on each other, and they do this by each of them picking a human champion to fight against each other. And if this war does not take place, then nothing green will ever grow, which is like a big problem. So, and the oldest boy gets chosen to go and be one of the champions. So, it's a wild ride. However, it was slow, and I didn't really care about the characters, mainly because of the writing style. So it's third person, but the author can go into everyone's head, which I don't personally enjoy that narration style just because it's kind of jarring to switch sentence by sentence through different characters' minds, which it's just jarring, which means that I'm taken out of the story and don't really care about the characters as much. But since this is only a duology, I believe, I will continue, just because I want to see what happens, based on what happened in the first book at the end. I really want to see how it ends, just to see if I like it better, and if the story picks up. And since it's only a duology and it's not that much of a time commitment, I would like to finish it, so definitely one that's not super high on my priority list, but one that I'd still like to get to eventually. The next series I'm in the middle of is the Heroes of Olympus series. I am currently in the middle of the 3rd book, The Mark of Athena. I am 200 pages in. I'm really enjoying this, like a whole lot. I've actually spent today doing quite a lot of reading for this. I've read nearly 130 pages, so it's definitely a fun one, a series that I'm really trying to prioritize to get through because there are so many Rick Riordan books that I need to read because I'm like really behind on everything. So I really would like to get through these quickly, but they're so good. So this book is like a companion series to Percy Jackson. Percy Jackson, we follow the children of the Greek gods, and in this book we follow the children of the Roman gods, but in this world the Greek and Roman gods kind of live as one, as different forms of themselves, and so the Greek the Greek demigods and the Roman demigods live within the same world and they can interact. So we see a lot of crossovers here. So a lot of characters that we know from the Percy Jackson series, and it's just a fun time. I would really recommend just all of Rick Riordan's books because they're so good. But this series so far has been my favorite. This book, I think, is my favorite so far of the 5-book series. I just enjoy it the best and think it's the most, like, the plot's the strongest so far. So I can't wait to see what I think of the rest of this series, but yeah, I would recommend everyone to read this because it's so good. The next series I'm in the middle of is The Land of Stories by Chris Colfer. This is the second book, The Enchantress Returns. I don't know why that's such a hard book title for me. This is on this month's TBR. I would really like to get to it. So far I'm going very slowly on my TBR, so we'll see if I actually finish it, but I'm very excited for this. So in this series, we follow two twins, Alex and Connor, and they are gifted their grandmother's book of stories. It's a book of fairy tales, and they accidentally fall into this book, and they get transported into a world of fairy tales where all the fairy tales are mixed together into some strange ways and some fun ways. And the first book was a lot of fun, and I'm very excited to see how it continues. I don't know exactly how, but it's a pretty long series. I think there are 6 books. There might be more. But I'm so excited for this. I so enjoyed the fantasy elements and, like, the twisted fairy tales. It's a lot of fun. Very excited to continue, and I hope that I can get to this one soon. The next series I'm in the middle of is A Court of Thorns and Roses. I have read A Court of Thorns and Roses, A Court of Mist and Fury, and A Court of Wings and Ruin. The next book in the series is A Court of Frost and Starlight, which is a short novella, and then will be A Court of Silver Flames. So, A Court of Frost and Starlight, I think I'll be getting to this month. It's not on my TBR, but I got it on the Libby app I think next week will be when I get it, and I'd like to read it as soon as I get it, so that I can read it before it has to be back. So, very excited for that one. And then A Court of Silver Flames, I'm not sure when I'm going to get to that one. It's very big. It's way more romance heavy than the other ones, which was, like, the thing that I didn't like from the first books. But we'll see. I don't know when I'm going to get to that one. But Court of Frost and Starlight I definitely want to get to, because that's the last book that we follow these characters, and then A Court of Silver Flames we follow a different perspective. It's one that's, like, in the rest of the books, but it's just a different POV than we've followed throughout the first 4 books, so. But very excited for A Court of Frost and Starlight. I'm going to be getting to it soon, hopefully, and I don't know when I'll continue, but I will eventually. The next series is City of Ghosts by Victoria Schwab. So, this is a middle grade series, and it's super fun. I'm on the last book, Bridge of Souls. I'm really hoping to put that on my September TBR. But it follows a girl named Cassidy Blake, and her best friend is a ghost, so of course she can see ghosts because of a near-death experience she had. Because of that, she has 1 foot in the land of the dead, and 1 foot in the land of the living. It's just a lot of fun. It's a very fun series. Second book was good. The first book, we are in Edinburgh, Scotland. That was a fun setting. These books really transport you. Second book, we go to Paris, which, an amazing setting. I loved that. The third book, we go to New Orleans, which I'm so excited for. So excited for. I can't wait to read it. Hopefully September will be the time. I'm really hoping, because I want to read it so badly. I have it. I have the ebook. I'm just waiting for it to go on my TBR. Very excited for that. I can't wait. I would really recommend this series. It's a lot of fun. For being someone who does not like spooky things, it's a very fun, like, chilling, like, very chilling. It's spooky, but it's not, like, overly scary. So, it's a good jump into, like, scary-ish books, like spooky books. So I would really recommend it because it's a lot of fun. The next series that I'm in the middle of is the Tristan Strong series. So I don't remember a lot about the first book, even though I've read it recently. Like, I read it 3 months ago. But I'm the type of person that I need to read series. Like, so many people will say that they can't continue series. I only continue series. Because if I don't, I forget the things that happen, and then I'll have to reread. And I'm not a rereader. I like to consume news stories, so I won't reread, which means I will do series, like, I will finish it 1 book a month and just be done with the series. Otherwise, I'll forget, and then I will never pick it up. So that's kind of what's happening for this one. So the first book follows a boy named Tristan Strong, and he meets, like, mythological characters, and he goes to this place and ends up punching a hole in the sky, and he gets transported into this world of, like, I think it's African mythology. He gets transported there, and he has to help save it because of what he did. This is the second book, Tristan Strong Destroys the World. I don't know how it's going to continue, but I'm very excited. I love the covers of these books. I think the third book, I don't think it's out yet. I could be completely wrong, but I don't think it's out yet. And I'm very excited for it to come out. I want to continue the series because I like the series. So many people said that they didn't, and I don't understand why. I loved the series, and I can't wait to continue it. So, I'm really hoping to continue this soon. Probably closer to the end of the year, I'm thinking. But still, it would be a lot of fun to finish this one. And I would really recommend it, even though so many people said that they didn't like it. Just try it, because I do believe it's good. There are a few people that I've seen say that they like it, and I agree with them. 100%. We have the same favorite character. Like, it's just a lot of fun. So, even though there are so many people that said that they didn't like it, please give it a try, because it's worth it. And the last series that I have to talk about is the King of Scars duology, and the second book, Rule of Wolves, which is the next book that I have to read. I'm really hoping to get to this in September. Yes, September. Really excited. So, this is the last trilogy in the Grishaverse. So, the first trilogy is the Shadow and Bone trilogy, and it follows a girl named Alina, and she lives in this world where there are Grisha, and that means that certain people who are Grisha can harness certain abilities. So some of them can control wind, fire, air. Some of them can, like, work with metal. Some of them can control the human body. So it's, like, a very cool magical system. And the second series is the Six of Crows duology, and it follows a group of, like, thieves in this same world, but a different country, and they are going on the suicide mission, like, they're going to steal something, but it's like the suicide mission, and it'll give them enough money to pay off all their debts. So, a very fun one. And then this series would be the one that I can't really talk about because it's, like, spoiler to everything else that happens. But trust me that the whole thing is worth the read. And I feel like there was this very specific way that this series was written. I think the first series does a really good job at explaining the magic system, but it feels kind of small. Like, you don't get a very overarching look at the world, so it feels very small, like your setting is very small. The second book gave me so much about the world, and it was less focused on magic, but I understood so much more of the world. Like, I can imagine each and every country and what its politics were like and how it interacted with the other countries. And then this book, I think it's very good at looking at deep into depths it to some of the characters that we followed and giving us a really nice plot and like a very fun adventure. So I think it's masterfully written. I'm loving the series, one of my favorites that I've ever read, and I would highly recommend the whole Grishaverse because it's a wild ride, but one that is completely worth your time. Okay, and those are all the series that I am currently in the middle of. 15 series, it's a lot, but I'm very excited to finish all of them and to start some new series. But yes, that is going to be all for this video. I really hope you enjoyed. If you did, please don't forget to like and subscribe, and let me know in the comments down below what's been your favorite series that you're still reading. And with that, I'll see you in my next video. Bye!